Hello and welcome to this showcase of my Yavin 4 Rebel Base MOC. It's a fairly large MOC. It's made to try to keep a high level of detail, but still keep it within somewhat of a reasonable scale. Although, as you can see, it is not to be contained within any form of reason in terms of my photo setup. But I think ignoring the surroundings of my living room, the rest of my living room, I think you can still enjoy the video and the showcase. So the MOC itself is fairly large, but it's not huge. I guess you could say it is quite huge. It is, however, made to be sort of a blend between a high level of detail without going completely overboard. This led to some interesting things regarding the starships included. So we have the X-wing in the front, and you can see the Y-wing in the hangar in the back there. And to make this scale well, I've had to create two custom starships that are scaled down. So they are a bit, I suppose you can say, a bit chubbier than you would be used to seeing these starships, both in terms of the width and the length. So shortened down in every aspect to try to make them scale better with the base itself. As when I just tried to do this after the scale of the standard minifigure scale Starship fighters like the Y-wing, the X-wing, it was just way too big. But I think this is a reasonable compromise. I think they look pretty good still, so they are also something I'm gonna attempt to show off here. So without further ado, let's try to get just a closer look at everything. So what you first might notice is that it is built on a not square base. I have built it into different sections here that kind of sort of curve around. It's quite angular still, but it's supposed to sort of follow the shaping of the temple to make everything a bit more interesting rather than just having a square base. On either side, you have some trees and a lot of shrubbery, just to kind of give the idea that you are actually on the Yavin 4, on the Yavin's moon, which is mostly forest, with this big temple in the middle. I've also gone quite heavy on the foliage on it to really write home that idea of this being a old abandoned temple. And I have no idea about anything videography related, so not quite sure how well the colors are being picked up here. But the temple is built in dark tan, in case that is not clear on the video. So showing a bit around. So that is sort of the layout of the front. It does have the sun in the center section. It is wide enough to fit the X-wing and definitely the Y-wing in between, which is sort of what kind of what the size is based around. So this can fit through. It is a tight fit, but I didn't want it to become too large. So this was sort of a nice in between. On the second level here, you have a little walkway where you can see through to the some of the interior. Moving up, you have just more of this wall that's nicely tiled off with a lot of foliage and plants. And looking further up, you have what is the throne room that we will take a look at later. So also in the front here, you have this little vehicle that you get in the Yavin 4 base set, which I have as a great way to get a lot of the minifigures that I really wanted for this scene. And over here, perhaps if you know, there's a little callback to the first X-wing set. This is included there, and this is actually essentially completely untouched how it actually came. So I thought it was a fun inclusion. You can see the sides here are comprised of more snot work. There's a lot of snot work in this build, and that is to kind of offset the fact that I don't have a lot of dark tan parts, which might sound a bit ridiculous saying, looking at the size of this. But there's a lot of techniques used here to kind of utilize and maximize the use of my parts. So the sides here are all comprised of 16 by 16 plates with tiles on the side. Same thing for this entire front section. And I think it has been used to great effect. Looking at it from this distance, I think it looks really good, and up close, I think there's a nice level of detail. So taking a closer look at the tree on the side, here, it is a kind of a basic tree, and you do still have this little crow's nest lookout that is included in the original set, which they sat in the tree, and I kind of wanted to include it as a little homage to the original set. There is quite a lot of detail. There's a lot of fern pieces. I have a suspicious amount of fern pieces, so I thought I'd put them to good use here, and I think they really worked out in the setting. Same thing on this side. This tree is a bit more detailed with some vines going around it and a bit more color in the leaves. Yeah, you can see the Y-wing in the back in the hangar there. So overall, I think this looks really good from the exterior point of view. And like I said, the X-wing has been scaled down, so that was quite a big project in itself. And I'm quite happy with how that turned out. And I will be taking a closer look at both the vehicles later on. But I think that is shows off the exterior fairly well. So now let's take a look at the interior. Here is a look at the complete interior of the Yavin 4 base. The whole MOC has a complete interior for the entire temple, so every spot is filled out with some iconic rooms from the film, from the movies, or otherwise, if not seen, try to be as detailed as possible. Namely speaking, about some areas of the lower section, the size of the hangar bay. I'm just trying to use my imagination what I would expect to find in a hangar that is situated in a somewhat 5,000-year-old temple. So without further ado, let's take a closer look down here in the hangar bay. There you can see the custom Y-wing. And I will be taking a look at these two starfighters in a closer fashion later on. But there you can see with the correctly opening cockpit in there, and a lot stubbier than you would know you're used to seeing them. But it definitely fits. As you can see, it does feel very in scale with the MOC itself. So looking at the sides here, you can see there's just a lot of stuff crammed in here. That there's a little screen in there. There's some boxes in the back. There's some troopers going around. You have the ladder going up to the debriefing room. And on the other side, same thing there. Ladder up leading up to the sort of control room. On the other side here, you have some little Star Wars-y looking crates. Got some rebel trooper walking there. You can see there's the pillars that's holding up this entire thing. So quite detailed. Quite a large space. But I really wanted to be able to fit a full starfighter inside of the hangar bay. And you can definitely do that. And it definitely fits. If you remove the little bridge over here, you can definitely put it in here. Right now it's kind of sticking out a little bit. I like that. I think it looks cool. It looks like it really sort of happening right now. It's in action. But it definitely fits in here. So now when I moved up the camera, why not take a look at the second level? So on the left side, you have the debriefing room using the screen piece from the Yavin 4 base, showing you just how to destroy a Death Star. And it is fairly well populated. I don't have a huge collection of Star Wars minifigures, but I think I managed to get a pretty good amount of pilots in there. And that is still with two pilots over there in the front, on the front side. You have some control panels in the back, some crates, lots of greenery to really get that overgrown feel in here too. Some more screens. You can also notice that I have used, for these platforms here, I have used light bluish gray instead of the dark tan. That is just to kind of get the idea, to really drive home the idea that this is a repurposed temple. So rather than just having everything in dark tan, it feels like it would make sense that some of these rooms are put in there later. And because I have a lot of light bluish gray stuff. So moving on to the other side, you have the control room where you have these nice blue screens with stickers from the Yavin 4 base set. You have this hologram computer, which kind of shows how close the Death Star is to be within firing range. You got a few, you got Mon Mothma, you got Lani Calrissian, Attilis, Akbar, essentially all the rebel-related minifigures I have. And the same thing goes sort of over here. light bluish gray with a bit of white detailing. Try to get as much detail as I can and feature as much of an interior as I can. Then you have, on each side here, you have a doorway leading into the center section, which has plenty of details in it. Also to still try to drive home that overgrown look and feel as much as I can. And this of course connects the two sides to each other, which I think is important. I always like to build in a way that it's, you know, in your mind the minifigures can get around. However, going to the last level, the minifigures cannot get around, and that is the throne room. Yeah, so this sits quite high up. I didn't really have a good way to make a good path for the minifigures to get up here. But you can see that it is quite a large and complete throne room. You have the ceremonial guards on each side, and you have essentially the whole crew standing back there. Yeah, I think that looks really good. And I decided to use lighter greens for the interior space of the throne room, just to make it feel a bit more celebratory, like they've kind of cleaned out this room a little bit. You have the dark red carpet coming up here, and then with the lighter green colors, it just kind of feels like the room is decorated rather than overgrown. Or at least that is the idea that I that I was going for. Getting an overview shot of the interior. So you can see it is definitely quite large. But like I said, it has been designed to be big, but not too big, but built at a scale where I don't have to sacrifice detail, but I will still be able to finish it. Which is, like I mentioned before, the reason why I have the two downscaled starfighters. But that about covers the interior of it. I really like how this throne room looks. I think that looks really cool. I think the entire interior ended up really pretty good. Spent a lot of time trying to figure out how I wanted to do this. And it is a bit reminiscent of the Playscale set version, which do indeed have a very similar configuration with the two sides like this. But I think Lego did a good job, so I kind of expanded on that idea, and I think it turned out really good. I very much like how the interior look, and I really do like the shaping of this MOC. There is quite a lot of different angles, trying to make it as interesting as possible, just so that every angle is fun and interesting to look at, that there's always something to look at. So it's not just, you know, has a front and a back, but all the sides are hopefully interesting as well. So now let's take a look at the starfighters individually. The first of the two starfighters we'll take a look at is the X-Wing. So this is created to be a sort of a model that works well in scale with the minifigure, but also worked well with the Yavin 4 build. You can see that there's quite a lot of nice techniques and designs going on here. Few things mentions that of some areas where I'm not totally convinced myself it was the best choice is mainly the nose of the ship, or the front section, this section right here. It is a bit, because I do feel like it is a bit too squared off. It doesn't quite have that really nice sloping and shaping, but I kind of did what I could with the parts I had at hand. So in the future I might end up remaking that, but overall I think the design looks really good. I think it's very, very obvious that it is an X-Wing. I think it captures that design quite well, and with the S-foils raised for the X there, that's a really cool shot, I think. So yeah, that's the X-Wing. You know, as far as features goes, the S-foils opens up, obviously. You have a cabin, which can fit for a minifigure, and R2-D2 back there. That's pretty much it. It's overall a nice compact model. Now let's take a look at the Y-Wing. So we are for a quick look at the Y-Wing. Follows the same concept as the X-Wing, scale down, but still reasonable scale with a minifigure. You can see in the cockpit there, it fits one full minifigure without problem. Oh, I forgot to take off the landing gear. The landing gear is just stuck on there. I don't have properly foldable landing gear on this. It should probably be pretty redoable, but haven't done so yet. So that's something that's definitely coming. You can see in the back there some nice detail with those purple thrusters. Some nice dark reddish brown for the greebling. As for the features, it's quite simple. The cockpit opens up to the side. It's a bit tricky to do with one hand though, so you'll just have to believe me. And then it actually has one more feature. You can open this hatch here and load up some bombs, and then you can actually pull... Ooh, I don't think that's tough to do with one hand. You can pull this lever out, and that will drop the bombs. So it does have that, actually have a sort of bombing feature. Whoa, sorry about that. Which I think is pretty cool. So that is the Y-Wing, and with that I want to say thank you for watching this video, and hope you enjoyed my Yavin 4 Rebel Base MOC. Bye!